Hello there, Ray here, and today we're back here on the ProtoTech SMP server because today is Halloween, and that means we're going to be going after a lot of different types of mobs, and hopefully some rare variations of these mobs that have the pumpkin as well as the jack-o'-lantern heads on them. So we're here on my island, and this is the main place where we will be trying to give the pumpkin-headed mobs as well as the jack-o'-lantern headed mobs, and you can see that they're just naturally spawning. There's some way off over there. See, there's just some zombies that spawn with pumpkins on their heads. Now this happens during Halloween. They can spawn with pumpkins. It's a 22.5% chance that they'll spawn with a pumpkin on their head if it's a mob that can spawn, and only undead mobs will spawn with this. So here we have I think this one's a pumpkin actually. Yeah, it's a 22.5% chance there'll be a pumpkin on its head. And then over here it's a 2.5% chance that it'll be a jack-o'-lantern. So jack-o'-lantern is quite a bit rare. Now pumpkins can naturally be given to mobs if they have the pickup item option tag, but jack-o'-lanterns you cannot even give to mobs, and they only come naturally during Halloween. So that's our goal, is to get different variations of the undead mobs that have the jack-o'-lanterns as well as the pumpkins. So over here we have our portal farm. This allows us to acquire pigman zombies really easily because they spawn inside of the portals. Now here we have it set up so that we capture all the different pigmans that are riding on top of chickens here. Now up here is where we have the player AFKing. Now right now we have ProtoTech bot, and he's just AFKing and minecart going back and forth. Now he aggroed the pigmen, so now all the pigmen are aggressive towards him and they're running towards him. Now as he moves back back and forth in the minecart, he will go over top of this area here, which will allow the pigmen to fall down into the water, and then they get pushed into the water into a drop chute. Now once they go through the drop chute, this will allow us to be able to pull out all the pigmen that are babies that are right on top of chickens, because there's a water stream there, and then the chickens will fall slow enough so that they will actually land in the water, and the water stream will pull the chickens over as well as the pigmen that are right on top of them, and they'll drop them off over here. Now over here we just come through here manually and we look for the different variations that we want. I was going for the ones that have jack-o'-lanterns on their heads that also have enchanted swords. So you can see that there's some enchanted swords. You can see some that have, you can't really tell, is it pumpkins or jack-o'-lanterns? It seems like quite a few of them are actually pumpkins, and that's why I was just using the water streams here just to kind of hold them in place. And then I just come in here with the minecart and sort through the ones that I want. Like you can see, this one doesn't have a jack-o'-lantern or pumpkin. And then using this method I could just go through and pick out the different types that I want. So once going through here, you can easily pick out the ones that you want and you don't want. And the ones that we picked out over here are all different variations. Now this one is from last year. This was a jack-o'-lantern headed baby pigman riding a adult chicken with a unenchanted sword. Now so this year we wanted to go for the same thing but with an enchanted sword. And we actually got one. I think it's right here. Yeah. Spooky. Yeah, he has an enchanted sword. And then you also want to check and make sure that these mobs here don't have the pickup item tag, so that if you throw them a hat, they won't pick it up and wear it. And that means that the sword being enchanted is spawned with them, not like the player just handed him a sword. And then we have a couple extra here. This one here is same thing, but it's just with a pumpkin head on it instead. And then we have a duplicates of each. So this is the pumpkin duplicate over here with enchanted sword, and then we have another spooky with the jack-o'-lantern head and enchanted sword as well. So the reason that we have a extra set of these is because these are the pigkins over here, and that's just a baby pigman riding a chicken. And then these sets are going to be turned into the piggabies, which are just baby pigmen. So that I'm just going to use these and remove their chickens, and then I can have that type of variation of the pigmen. They won't be riding the chicken anymore. And you can do that just by having the pigmen put underneath water. Then it will leave its jockey, and then I can have the variations of the baby pigmen there. And it was just easier to do it that way because you don't get so many babies through the system, but you get a lot of jockeys just the way that the water flows through. Now we also got the adult variations of this as well down here. Now I just came in here manual, and this is the drop shaft, and there's just some cactuses down below that killed them. they kind of fall. They die from the fall, but then the cactus just removes all the XP as well as the items, so they don't become overwhelming and lag up the server. Down here we got the variations. This is the same thing, enchanted sword with a pumpkin head on it. This is enchanted sword with a jack-o'-lantern head, and the same thing, you know, you want to check them, make sure they don't pick up any items. With this portal farm, we did have it so that a lot of pigmen were be able to spawn, so I thought it would be quite easy to actually get these type of variations, but it actually was kind of difficult to get these ones with the jack-o'-lantern head and the enchanted sword. It wasn't until the last couple hours that I actually got these, and we're several hours into the event already, and then there's a couple hours left still. But I cleaned out the bay here, and you do want to remember to name them. Now we did have a couple of, I actually got just the baby pigman variations here, and I actually lost them. I don't know, they just like vanished or something. Maybe I didn't name them, but I remember naming them, but somehow they did vanish. So now I got these variations, and we'll just turn them into the baby variations when we need to. Now I do got all the different types of variations of the pigmen that I want to get. I'm not going to get the pickeys, because the pickeys take a lot of time. Like I would have to build up that whole contraption that I showed a couple weeks ago, and I'm just not going to do it this year. And we are also in 1.8, so the rarest mobs are a little bit different at 1.8 than what they are in like 1.9 and 1.10. So what next is we gotta do the other types of hostile mobs, and what we will be doing here is by using spawners, and there happens to be a lot of spawners around my island here, and we will use the spawners to get the other hostile mobs that have the pumpkin as well as the jack-o'-lantern variations on top of their heads. Now the first spawner here we have is the skeleton spawner, and the skeleton spawner we will be using to get the skeletons that have the jack-o'-lantern heads as well as the pumpkins, and then we also want them to have enchanted bows, which just increases their rarity just a little bit. And we also don't want them to have the pickup item tag, or else you could just hand them the bow and that wouldn't be very unique at all. So this is where we have our skeletons at. Now there is a skeleton spawner up here, and I'll show you where that's at. Up here we just have it behind this wall, and it's really simple. Water just moves the skeletons over and takes them in this direction, and my brightness is pretty high so you can see in the dark. And then what we have is just the skeletons go over here, and then they will be placed underneath of this sky axis. And here we have a tube, or just a row of glass here, which goes all the way up to the sky axis. So any mobs that are underneath the glass will take sunlight damage once it's daylight. And here we have just some slime, which light goes right through. And then down here we have a place where we store the mobs. So you can see these are all skeletons that don't have pumpkins on their heads, so that if the sky comes, or the sun comes out, then it'll come down and beat on top of these skeletons and it'll actually burn them. Where if they have a pumpkin on top of their head, then they won't take any damage. Now even if they have a helmet on, they will eventually break their helmet with the skylight, and this way we can sort out the ones with pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns easily from the other ones, and then we can just sort these through to ones we want. Now I got the two variations that I wanted to keep right over here. We got the variation with the pumpkin. Here he's over here with the enchanted bow, and then you also check them, make sure that they don't pick up items such as a helmet. And then here we have the jack-o'-lantern variation. So I got those two stored up, and those are only two jack-o'-lantern or the skeleton variations that we needed for the skeleton spawners. Now down this rail a little ways we have our first zombie spawner. Now this is where we got all the different variations of the zombies, and I'm not sure all the different variations we have currently, but I think we're getting pretty close to having a lot of different types. And here we have it so that the same thing's going on. We have a single zombie spawner over there, and they're dropping the zombies here, and they have a sky axis, and that's why some of them are burning from the sunlight. And then we just have holes on either side, which just allow the baby zombies as well as the jockeys to get pushed over to the side. Jockeys don't really get pushed because you can't really push jockeys, but they eventually walk over here by themselves. And then from here you can manually pull them out. Now we got so many different types that we're looking for very specific types, and I usually just go through and look for ones that have jack-o'-lantern heads with enchanted tool in their hand, since you cannot actually have a mob that have the pumpkin or jack-o'-lantern head naturally spawned on, and also have armor, because as soon as the jack-o'-lantern head or pumpkin is placed on the mob, it no longer checks to put armor on the mob, and that's why you can't find one with, say, with like diamond armor, then a jack-o'-lantern head as well. Now you could give one diamond armor with the jack-o'-lantern head, but it wouldn't naturally spawn like that. So the best you could do is find a sword or a shovel and then have it enchanted. This one isn't enchanted. We haven't found one that's enchanted yet, but you can see like there's a bunch of enchanted tools up there. There's a couple of them up there, but it's unlikely that those will actually be a jack-o'-lantern headed one with an enchanted tool. It might just be a normal zombie, or it might just be a pumpkin headed one. So the way that I would come out here and sort through the babies is just use a minecart in this corner here, put it down, and then kill it off until you get one that you want. Now if you look through here, like I only see like one with probably a pumpkin head on it. You can see it bobbing up and down there, and it's also holding like some rotten flesh, so we don't really want that one. So then I just come in here with lava. You can kill off all of them pretty easily. That way you can reduce some of the lag, because these spawners, they just keep reducing. And then there's another side over here. Now to get the adults out, we just kind of have this inclined rail here, and we just stick a minecart in there. Here you can see there's a jack-o'-lantern headed one, but you can see how he's holding that rotten flesh there. So that automatically knows that if you would happen to give him a helmet, he would drop his jack-o'-lantern head. Well, he doesn't actually physically drop it, but he would get rid of it and he would just pick up the helmet. Now this way you don't want actually any one of them that actually have the rotten flesh in their hands. And using this method, you can just go through and pick out the ones you want, like you see the enchanted ones. You can keep going through it, and hopefully you may come up with a better one that you got already. Like this is currently the best we have so far. Here we have one that has an enchanted sword, but it has a pumpkin head. Now I think we actually have one similar to this. It's right over here probably. Yeah, here we have. And then we also have there's also zombie variations of these two, so there's actually quite a few different ones that you can get. Right now we have that one with the pumpkin on his head. Then here we have, kind of forget what's all this. This might be that's a zombie with a jack-o'-lantern on its head. Then we have a normal one with the pumpkin on its head. A normal zombie with a jack-o'-lantern on its head. And there's like tons of different variations of these things. It gets kind of confusing. Here we have one riding a chicken. That's a zombie that has a jack-o'-lantern on its head. That's probably one of the rarer types. Now you could try to get one with also had a sword that's enchanted, but yeah, that's pretty difficult. I think that's the one I was trying to go for last year, but we actually finally got it this year. And then here's one that's just not riding a chicken. So that's really nice to actually finish off our collection here. Now at each of these spawners we have somebody AFKing. I have one of my alternate accounts AFKing here. You see all the people that we have online AFKing. I actually had 5 accounts AFKing in the beginning, and then eventually got some other people to swap out accounts, because if my connection would go down, then a bunch of these mobs would despawn. And then I just use my main account here to go to each of the different spawners using this rail system, and then just like name tag them and sort them and stuff. Works pretty well. Now also above the spawner itself, so like the zombie spawner here, same thing, sky axis. But over here we have the actual spawner. There it is. And then we have it so that above the spawner we put some chickens. Now this is to help allow more jockeys to spawn, because if there's chickens near where a zombie spawns, there's a chance that the zombie will ride these chickens here. You can see here we got some zombies riding the chickens, and I named this one. This is Spooky as well. Yeah, he's a normal zombie, pumpkin, on top of a chicken. So you get quite a few of them here. So next up here we have our spider jockey farm, and this is similar to the one we built last year. This is the storing tube where we just have all the jockeys being stored up. The actual farm's up here, and it's the same thing where there's a spawner back here, then the spiders come off the spawner, and then they get dropped down into another waterway, which kind of pulls them over to this corner, and then there's a pressure plate they stand on, and it just activates this dispenser, which will dispense out a minecart and eventually pick up the spiders that are back in there. And then the spiders go through a tripwire here, and if they're tall enough, let's say they have a spider or a skeleton riding on top of the spider, then it will activate that tripwire. Now the spiders go this way, and they're just burned in this lava, and the minecarts are pushed into this cactus and picked up by these hoppers and recycled, where the skeletons or the spider jockeys that have skeletons on them are taken over here and dropped down this tube here, and then we go through them manually and remove all the ones that we don't want. Now down here we have quite a few of the pumpkin headed ones, and you can see there is also a sky axis above these guys. So like all these spiders here were actually just normal skeletons riding on top of them, and they all burned up. Now we're just left with the ones with pumpkins on top of their head. Now unfortunately we didn't have any that had jack-o'-lanterns on top of their head. The ones that we did have that had jack-o'-lanterns would pick up items, so I just had them removed. But over here we have two of the jockeys that have it so that they have the pumpkins on their head as well as enchanted bows, and they also don't pick up items, which is nice. Now I don't have my particle effects on right now, but I don't think any of these spiders actually have any any spectral effects. There's like a 10% chance that spiders will have a particle effects on them in hard mode, and it's quite rare, but like you can get invisibility spiders to be invisible. I only seen one spider that was invisible this year, but I don't think these have any effects on them. So next up here we have our second zombie spawner. Same setup where we're having the babies come off to the side and we're having the adults burn up in the sun, and we're pulling them off to the side as well as we're pulling the babies off here. And we collected a couple different types here. See here we got the jack-o'-lantern jockey, and he is one that's actually holding some rotten flesh, so he's not ideal, but I think we have a better one. And here's just a normal baby with a pumpkin on his head. And then over here we actually have, get through here, we have, I think this is just, oh yeah, this is a jack-o'-lantern on a normal zombie baby. And then we have a pumpkin on a zombie baby. And then up here I think we have the more ideal one. I think it's a baby, yeah, here it is. Yeah, it's a baby normal zombie with a jack-o'-lantern head riding a chicken. And this one actually, he jumped on top of one of these chickens up here. And then there's this guy. Yeah, this guy actually spawned from our spawner here, and he was in this cluster of zombies here. And when I was sorting through them, well, you know, I take my minecart and I go through all the different spawners, and I'd seen a diamond armored one in there. So Harry blocked off the skylight so that it wouldn't destroy his helmet. And then I pulled them all out until I got to him. Now at first I thought it was a joke. I thought somebody went in here and just gave a zombie some diamond armor, because if you notice, every single piece of his diamond armor is also enchanted, which is extremely rare. So I was like, oh, somebody just gave this guy some diamond armor and put it in here as a prank. But no, this guy actually really spawned here, and the way you could tell is that he's not holding anything in his hand. Like all these guys here, they picked up all of the rotten flesh. Now if he had the ability to pick up armor, he would also have the ability to pick up items in his hand. So if you would give him like a sword, he would be able to pick up that sword. But he has nothing in his hands, and this means he can't actually pick up any items. So he actually spawned this way, which is extremely rare. And if you were not going for like these zombies for Halloween, where they have the special effects for the Halloween, if you're going for a zombie that wasn't during Halloween, you would probably go for something like this. But you would probably want to get a full diamond armored zombie that's also enchanted, but then you would want to try to get it on top of, you know, something like this where it's a jockey. So yeah, that is extremely rare, and the local difficulty wasn't even that high at the time. So I was kind of surprised I got it, and during this whole thing I never seen a single zombie that had a piece of diamond armor on it other than this one, so that's pretty rare. During our AFKing here, we actually had a count AFKing here, and the account actually burned to death. I think maybe lava started a fire here and burned him to death. But actually that doesn't actually affect the spawner, because even when the player is dead, he can actually still cause the spawner to spawn out mobs. and he can also keep this place loaded and keep these mobs here from actually unloading. So he's actually dead right now, but he's right here. But we just left him there because he just keeps the spawner loaded, even though he's not here. You can't even see him. So the last one here on the rail is another spider spawner, and this one is where we're going after the jockeys as well. So the spawner is actually over here. It's actually a dual spawner. There's actually a skeleton spawner here right beside the spider spawner. So the spider spawner is right over there. You can barely see it, but then you can see there's actually a skeleton spawner right there in the wall as well. You can see where the dungeons are. It's actually two dungeons that were generated right beside each other, which is kind of interesting. But what we want is just the spiders, and we don't really want the skeletons. So that's why the AFK spot is back here, so that the player is in range of the spider spawner, but not the skeleton spawner. I didn't feel like breaking the skeleton spawner. May use it in the future. And then here we just have more storage for the minecarts. And then the spiders come out just like in the other one, and they get picked up by the minecart, go through this tripwire, see if it's a jockey or not. Go that direction. And then here we have the jockeys going up a little bit higher. We gotta go up this direction, and they go up by the player so that the player can easily maintain, like, kill off any jockeys that's not needed. And we didn't get too many jockeys from this farm here. Had some trouble early on, and the player was AFKing. The player that was AFKing here was getting disconnected quite a bit. And it seems like with jockeys, it's just a lot harder to get the one you're looking for, because it's only 1% chance that a spider will spawn with a jockey on it. And then you also need it to be a jack-o'-lantern headed and enchanted bow, so it gets kind of difficult. Now, unfortunately, we weren't able to get any jockeys that were spider jockeys that had jack-o'-lantern heads that did not pick up items. All the ones that we found were ones that would pick up items, and then if you gave them a helmet, then they would just pick it up, and then that would ruin your jockey. So we just killed those, but that makes it kind of a challenge, because in the next year we probably have to go after that one. But there's also going to be quite a few changes with 1.9 and left-handed mobs, making it quite a bit more rare. So we're here at our villager island, and here we have the same contraption sort of as last year, where we convert the baby villagers into baby villager zombies. And the way that this works is that up there we have our villager breeder, and then the babies are just dropped down so they have a low amount of health. Then the piston pushes them over and drop them into this water stream here, where they will be right beside these zombies, and the zombies will attack the baby villagers and convert them over into zombie villagers. And then from here, there is a chance that they will be able to ride on top of these chickens, just because the zombie was created here, and therefore if there's a chicken nearby, you can see like these zombies here are riding on top of chickens, and then that's how we can get chicken jockeys. And we also got chickens over here. And then there's a chance, like when the game puts the zombie near the baby villager, like you can see, it'll teleport a zombie in near the baby, and sometimes it's not always precise. So sometimes it's off by a meter, a little bit off, and then it'll put it inside this wall here. So that's why we have it, so that we open this wall up a little bit, because all these babies will just get stuck in this wall. And here you can see they're all running around trying to attack me. But yeah, then those will have a chance of having a pumpkin on top of their head, or like here, this one has a jack-o'-lantern on top of its head. And then over here, all the extra zombies, their babies, will be able to fit between this iron bar here and land down on top of this iron block down here. And then from here, the minecarts will come up and pick up the baby zombie villagers, and then they'll just take them across this iron blocks here and just kill them. Now, if inside of this contraption the baby villager zombie happens to summon in with its own chicken, the chicken will be able to hop on top of this water here, and it won't actually fall down into the iron bars there. So if we had any jockeys, they would be inside there, or else they'd be over here on the edges, or even out here, because this is just ones that escaped. It seemed like we didn't get as many with the pumpkin heads and the jack-o'-lantern heads that were jockeys. We got a lot of these that had no pumpkin or jack-o'-lantern heads on, and I got some inside of here. I just removed them as I seen them. And you can see the ones we had from last year. We have the, just stored over here, we have the babies, they have the lantern heads on, and then we have the normal pumpkin head, but he's riding a chicken. That's from last year. This year we did quite a bit better, and you can see that Ozzy has really made this place look a lot nicer. Was kind of ugly looking, and he's just AFK back here, but yeah, he fixed this all up, made it look really nice. He got his little AFK house over here. Wither skeletons are also able to have pumpkins as well as jack-o'-lanterns on their heads during Halloween. And you can see with the wither skeleton farm, it's very easy to actually get these variations of the wither skeletons. See how many have pumpkins? It's just like crazy amount of them. And then here I actually pulled some out of the farm and placed them over here for storage. I got 2 of them that had the pumpkins on their heads, and I got 2 of them that had the jack-o'-lanterns on their heads. And you also want to make sure that they don't pick up items unless you like to decorate your wither skeletons. If you want like a wither skeleton that you want to put some, nice armor on, maybe you want to color some leather armor, put it on there, and also have a jack-o'-lantern head, then you'd want them to hold items. But in our case, we don't want that, and that's why we got ones that don't pick up items. So the Halloween event finally finished here on the server. It lasted 24 hours, and the time it started was pretty much the same time zone as where the server is hosted. So it pretty much just lasted just a day from midnight to midnight, and you can see that we got a lot of different types of variations of the mobs with the different types of jack-o'-lanterns as well as the pumpkin heads and all the different variations this year. I'm really impressed at how many different types we actually got this year. I'm still going to have to, collect them and count them and see which ones we got and which ones we're missing. But I think that's going to do it for today. So thanks for joining me as I have fun in survival. Bye bye.